Hello everyone, welcome to the Project Veritas Wall of Shame, the infamous Wall of Shame where journalists' reputations go to die, where journalists have to print corrections and retractions in articles questioning my journalism ethics. Today's retracto number 364 goes to Time Magazine. Time Magazine, I'm not sure if they actually still have a magazine. I guess they do, I don't know, but there's apparently an electronic article, and the byline is Vera, Bergengruen, and Chris Wilson. They said that we fundraise on Give, Send, Go. We don't. That's factually incorrect. And they had to print a retraction to self-described whistleblowers frequently fundraise on Give. So our whistleblowers fundraise, not us. Time Magazine printed a correction. Cue the Retracto theme song. Retracto, the correction of like Retracto Light, not a malicious retraction by any measure, but a factual inaccuracy, one that is unbecoming of an organization as historic and reputable as Time Magazine. Headline 3, crowdsourcing site linked to right-wing causes generates a windfall for itself. Time Magazine printed the following statement. 11 of the fundraisers reviewed by Time also feature a checked box where users agreed to subscribe to Project Veritas, a right-wing activist group which frequently fundraises on Give, Send, Go. Well, that's not true, right? Project Veritas doesn't use Give, Send, Go for our fundraising. Our whistleblowers, people not employed by us, independently go create a Give, Send, Go account, a great organization, unlike GoFundMe, which took down the page we did for Richard Hopkins. So Time Magazine had to correct that, and afterwards they said, quote, 11 of the fundraisers reviewed by Time also featured a checkbox where users agreed to subscribe to Project Veritas, a right-wing activist group whose self-described whistleblowers frequently fundraise on Give, Send, Go. The story has been updated to reflect comment from Veritas. By the way, they should have updated it to begin with. They should have asked for my comment before they ran with this piece about the group's relationship with Give, Send, Go. Let's compare and contrast Time's expeditious turnaround on their correction with, for example, like the New York Times. All the news is fit to print, the old gray lady, without fear or favor. Now, because this correction that you just saw Time Magazine make was one related to some fact, like do we fundraise or not on this website, or do our whistleblowers fundraise versus us, this is not an ideological mistake. This is a fairly just a factual inaccuracy, but not as bad as what the New York Times did in our defamation lawsuit against the New York Times, one that got us past motion to dismiss. But let's take a look at the facts that surround that and contrast that to what Time Magazine did. This is our defamation lawsuit against the New York Times pertaining to the article calling our videos deceptive, part of a coordinated disinformation campaign relying on experts at Stanford. Project Veritas video was a coordinated disinformation campaign where you're making claims without evidence, etc., etc. That first sentence, our videos are deceptive. Now, in the court of law, there's something called a complaint and an answer to the complaint. They only have to file the answer after we win on the motion to dismiss. We won, and they were ordered to answer our allegations in our defamation complaint. And again, these are New York Times lawyers in the Supreme Court of the state of New York. They did admit that in their article, and here you have the article, the initial article, September 29, 2020, where it said, quote, New York Times admits in an article by Maggie Astor, which stated, a district court judge in July temporarily suspended Minnesota's ban on third parties collecting. So the New York Times reported that it was not illegal because, in their words, a district court judge suspended the law. However, they got that wrong, not according to me, but according to the New York Times in the very next 2 paragraphs. The New York Times admit that the district court ruling merely delayed enforcement of the law. So suspending the law versus delaying the enforcement, that's a very important distinction because the New York Times is saying in this legal document that they actually got the facts wrong in their initial article. After we challenged them on this, Minnesota didn't suspend the law, they delayed the enforcement of the illegal thing that occurred, which means the New York Times is admitting in paragraph 104 that Liban Mohammed, the subject of our video, when he had more than 3 ballots, was indeed breaking the law. Now, what's fascinating about this is The New York Times admitted in the answer to the complaint that they got it wrong, but they still haven't updated the article. They haven't corrected the article. Why? Well, I'd be speculating here, but it's a pretty fair speculation. Both A, their pride, and B, this pertains to voter fraud. And in their ideological minds, they can't allow there to be any journalism on voter fraud. We must disprove this misinformation. But it's right there in paragraph 104. Defendants admit the district court ruling delaying enforcement of the law against ballot collection was issued. And they still haven't corrected the article. So compare the behavior of Time magazine with the New York Times. In one case, Time magazine corrects it right away. In the other case, the New York Times never corrects it. We will litigate this to the Supreme Court. Even though they admitted in court they got the facts wrong, they still won't correct the article. And that's the problem with journalism today. Although Vera Bergengruen and Chris Wilson at Time magazine did a good job on retracting, and the New York Times should be ashamed of themselves, still giving Vera Bergengruen and Chris Wilson a retracto. I have one, I should have two. We'll be mailing them to you. Next time, focus on the facts. Next time, check your facts before going public and stop projecting onto me who you are and stop calling me right-wing, because there's nothing right-wing about me. I've never issued a right-wing public policy prescription for our society. I stick to the cold, hard facts, which is what you should have done, but now you get the retracto treatment. And your retraction, number 364, will go on the wall of shame. Thank you.